Hello and welcome back to the track. If you're a Ferrari fan, I have some really good news or some really bad news depending on which side of the coin you land on there. First, let's paint the picture and look at the strengths and weaknesses that Ferrari have right now. Strong chassis. We have seen this time and time again since the start of the season. Despite all the bad luck Ferrari have had, the drivers are not complaining about the chassis. They're just not happy with the power that they have or don't have. Even other drivers have said how much Ferrari just have that much more speed and control in the turns. And there's also the smaller turbo. It gives them a better start compared to the rest of the grid. And even with the new starting procedure, they still look stronger than most teams. Other teams are still being inconsistent on their start. One thing that's clear is that the smaller turbo gives Ferrari the upper hand when it comes to acceleration, like at the start of the race or coming out of a slow corner. And that's also one of the reasons why they're losing so much on the straight. I mean, just look at Audi for comparison. Their starts are absolutely horrendous because their turbo is so big and it's hard to get it spooled up in under 4 seconds with that amount of pressure. But they're really good on the straights. And that's because bigger turbo means more power in the straight, smaller turbo, less power on the straight. And it doesn't take a lot to know that Ferrari are clearly on a different level than the rest of the competition when it comes to their chassis. First, we saw them introduce the Macarena wing. Then there was the exhaust flap, which was rumored to be giving them a lot of downforce, but it was also sacrificing a lot of straight line speed. Now, good news, they get to keep that part for the rest of the year. Bad news, it's that it's already banned for next year. And while yes, this part is amazing, it is one of the biggest reasons why they're losing so much on the straight. So we can say with confidence that they went all into their chassis development, knowing they were going to suffer in the straight. Although I don't think they thought they were going to struggle as much as they're actually struggling. So that part was probably a bit of a surprise for them. But again, they knew how much they were going to be suffering in the straight because of these two things that are giving them that much more speed on the turns. More on that in a second. So now let's talk about their weaknesses. And there really is just one, and that is just their engine. And their engine is nowhere near where Mercedes is. If you were paying attention in the Canadian Grand Prix, Kimi was literally gaining a second on everyone every single lap. But other than that, Ferrari are looking really strong, and we even saw Hamilton get another podium. So now let's get into the good news and bad news out of all of this, because by the time I'm done here, you will either have hope for Ferrari or you think I should be evaluated. Either way, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. But good news, Ferrari A's their chassis, Hamilton and Leclerc are both happy. Bad news, no straight line speed. That's pretty obvious. So we have an overdeveloped chassis and an underdeveloped engine. I believe they did this on purpose, and the reason why, if Mercedes suddenly start struggling, wow, that's a mouthful, there's no rule to help them get to where Ferrari is. There's no ADUO for the chassis, but Ferrari can get help with the ADUO to get to where Mercedes is. So here's why I think they did this. Being down on power this year gives you more. Not only this year, but next year. It gets you an extra upgrade, more money, more dyno time. Not only this year, but also next year if they're 4% below the benchmark set by Mercedes. So if you're a team that's been at the top of the sport for most of its lifetime, but haven't won anything since 2008, let that sink in. You're gonna get desperate. I would, but why do something so desperate? And I think they knew how strong Mercedes was gonna be early on, especially since they pulled out of Formula E in 2022 and the compression ratio that was everywhere before the 2026 season even started. So maybe they thought we won't be able to keep up with that. So instead, let's overdevelop this chassis knowing that we're gonna get the ADUO later on in the year. If I'm Fred and I know that if my engine's weak and I would get help 6 races into the season, then I'm pushing for better aerodynamics. I can't get help for my bad aerodynamics later down the line, but I can get help for my engine. They decided early enough to be confident in knowing that if they can get ahead on the chassis, they would use the help of the ADUO to make up for the deficit that they have in the straight line speed later in the year. So far, it's rumored that Ferrari are 2 and maybe even 4% below the benchmark and about half a second on race pace. And the rumor has it that the exhaust aero piece is costing them 2 to 3 tenths, and they're losing at least 3 tenths on the straight just from power alone. So in total, they're at minimum losing half a second a lap, which is exactly what I said. But they know where they made those sacrifices because they're just that much better on the turns. But the risk they run by doing this is, what if it doesn't work out? What if the extra upgrade isn't enough this year? Well, maybe there's some more good news if you're a Ferrari fan. I'm sorry for jumping. But the good news is that Mercedes got nerfed. They won't be the same. They won't be able to play with their compression ratios like they've been doing. And this is rumored to make Mercedes lose 3 tenths a lap, and it will be effective immediately. So theoretically speaking, the deficit will only be 2 to 3 tenths, and that's something I know Ferrari will be able to find with the ADUO, because yes, they're not the fastest, but they're also really not that far behind, or at least they know where they're losing so much from. Bad news though, this could all just be a massive setup for a great 27 season. Now there's gonna be some regulation changes next year, we just don't know exactly what they are. And until the new regulations change, carrying a 4% deficit this year guarantees you the same advantages next year, regardless of where you place. So what if Ferrari somehow are able to use this year's ADUO upgrade to fight for a championship at the end of the season? What if they place first, second, or third on their constructors? That means that they have a top 3 car, and they're going into 2027 with an extra upgrade, more dyno time, and a bigger cost cap. And this tracks the only other team anywhere near Mercedes is McLaren, and they're using the Mercedes engine, so they won't be getting any ADUO benefits, and they're also going to suffer the deficit of not being able to play with the compression ratio. So they're definitely going to struggle as well. But that's a scary part, because what if they're sacrificing enough this year to set up for a successful 27, 28, and 29? So is it so crazy to think that this was all done on purpose? I don't think so. Even before the 25 season was over, people were already talking about how great Mercedes' engine was, and that they were going to be a true force to be reckoned with in 2026. There's also a lot of staff that went from Mercedes to Ferrari, so who's to say that they didn't have insider information and made this plan based on that information? You also have to think about how there's rumors that Mercedes are reaching the cap of their engine development. Because how else do you expect Ferrari, top 3 pretty much every year, at a 4% deficit all of a sudden, but still they have the best chassis? I think it's just a genius or desperate. So good news if you're a Ferrari fan. They will without a doubt win the 27 season. If they can get their engine at the same level at Mercedes this year, they can actually even win this year. Mercedes literally just got nerfed, and Ferrari are literally about to get a buff. So I think it is possible to find just a few more tenths on the straight with the ADUO. So if Mercedes suffer enough loss and Ferrari can find just a few more tenths on the straight, we could see them fighting for the championship later this year. Bad news is that they might be sacrificing their 26 season to go on to 27, 28, 29 and finish out this regulation really strong with another 3 championships. So let me know what you guys think. Will Ferrari bring it to Mercedes, or are we gonna have to wait until 27, or should I be evaluated? But if you think Ferrari are gonna win, who do you think is gonna win, Lewis or Charles? So let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and until the next time, box.